Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video we're going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Thursday, December the 9th. We had a huge slate Wednesday, and we got another little short slate for Thursday, just a 3-gamer. But as always guys, we're going to break down the slate, go game by game. We're going to talk through each one of these 3 games and kind of give my early thoughts, what does stand out to me looking at the slate on Wednesday night. And then as we do go through each game, we will build out an early core, 5 guys that I specifically do like for DraftKings and for Yahoo. Now, as always, these are my first looks of the slate. With a sport like NBA, you have to pay attention to injury news. You have to pay attention for injury updates. The slate can completely change. Guys can get ruled out randomly. It happens all the time in NBA. So, I do provide a lot more updated content after we do get injury reports, after we get injury news, starting lineups, all that. I'll provide a lot more updated stuff on Patreon. So if you want to check that out, it's linked down below in the description. You can get access to my full updated core plays that I post about an hour before lock. Get access to my positional plays, my favorite plays at each position for both DraftKings and for Yahoo. Get access to my rankings, my top 20 plays of the day ranked in order of interest, DK specific and Yahoo specific. And then also you can join our Discord chat. That's available for Patreon members. That's one of the perks of being a Patreon member. You get to join Discord. I'm in Discord, basically every day throughout the day to answer questions, to talk through slates. If you guys ever have lineup-specific questions, before lock, if you need to make swaps after lock and you want my thoughts, I can always give those in Discord. So, definitely check out the Patreon, see all that I do have to offer over there. I also give out some of my favorite picks each day on Prize Picks for Patreon members. So, if you want to check out Prize Picks, they are the sponsor of this video. Prize Picks is a player prop based DFS site, so you're basically just picking the over or the under on players' projections. Now, right now, when as the time I'm recording this video, they do not have any NBA projections posted yet for Thursday, but they'll get those posted sometime Thursday morning. But as you can see here, they have stuff up for Thursday Night Football. So if you want to get some NFL action in, they got Thursday Night Football stuff up. They got college basketball, college football. Prize Picks basically has every sport you can imagine. You can mix and match sports. You can win up to 10x your money over on Prize Picks. If you guys want to sign up, use code NOAH when you sign up, and they will match your first deposit. Prize Picks will give you a free bet up to $100 when you do sign up with my promo code. And again, if you want some of my favorite picks each day for Prize Picks, I give those out on Patreon. I'll have picks for Thursday Night Football, and I'll have some picks for the NBA slate too that I'll post for Patreon members. So again, check all that out. Link down below in the description. But let's go ahead and take a look at Thursday's little short 3-game slate. We're just going to start off with the first game of the night, Utah and Philly. And I will say that, looking at the slate at first look, this is not a really good 3-game slate. I will definitely be playing light today. I just don't like this slate. I don't like, the options that the guys were rostering these games. I don't think are that appealing either. But we'll start off with the Jazz and Sixers. So looking at Utah here, I say this in every video. The Jazz are one of my least appealing teams to roster. It seems like I never play anyone on Utah. The only time I ever play these guys is in a situation when Mitchell's out or Gobert's out or Conley's out. That could be the case today. Utah is on a back-to-back. We could see some guys rested here. I will say that of the 6 teams playing today, 4 of the 6 teams are on back-to-backs. So we're definitely going to have to pay attention to the injury report. It would not be surprising if they rest Mike Conley. Mike Conley has kind of been prone to rest on back-to-backs this year. Now, he did only play 24 minutes on Wednesday, so pretty likely that he plays, but keep an eye on this. If everyone's good to go from Utah, we have to consider some of these guys. I normally don't like to play any Jazz, but on a 3-game slate, we have to consider these guys. Donovan Mitchell, I think at 8,800 is playable. Now, I would probably prefer, Jokic and Dejounte Murray. I probably would prefer Embiid too. There's a lot of other studs I'd rather get up to than Mitchell, but Mitchell at 8,800 I think is a fine pay-up option. Donovan Mitchell this season, we haven't seen a massive ceiling from him. Out of his last 10 games, he doesn't have a single game over 50 DraftKings points. But the upside's still there for Donovan Mitchell. He's a really good player. He's a high-usage player. He'll take a lot of shots. He's got a ceiling. It's just, on this slate, I don't think he's a priority pay-up option for me. Same with Rudy Gobert. Really tough matchup for Gobert going up against Embiid. This is a spot where Gobert can maybe pick up some fouls. It's a scary matchup for sure, but for what it's worth, he did do really well early this year against Philly, but I'm pretty sure, I don't know if we really want to look too much into that because I'm pretty sure Andre Drummond was the starting center that game. I don't think Embiid played then, so honestly, I don't even want to look into that. It's definitely a scary spot going up against Embiid, but I think Gobert's a fine option at 8,400. Mike Conley at 5,800, not that interested in. Just hasn't really shown much upside this year. I think he's priced probably where he should be. He's good to give you 25, 30 DK points, but just, the ceiling on Mike Conley is pretty low. He had that good 48-point game against Boston recently, but man, outside of that, it's just a lot of games with 28, 30 DK points. at 5,800, I think Conley's priced about right for this slate. And then Bojan, Clarkson, they're playable, but neither one stand out to me. I think Royce O'Neal is actually a decent value, and I never play Royce O'Neal. I hate playing the guy. He's a very low usage player. He doesn't really do much on the offensive end. When Royce O'Neal has a good game, it's usually because he gets 6, 7, 8 rebounds. He'll get a couple steals, a couple blocks. That's kind of what he did on Wednesday against Minnesota. Had 9 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, a block, and 3 steals. Yeah, I don't really think we're playing Royce O'Neal for his upside. I think we're playing him for the minutes. He's going to get a ton of minutes. He plays, usually 32, 34 minutes a night. Right now, there is literally like no value on this slate. There's no cheap options that I really like. So I think a guy like Royce O'Neal at 4,300 who's going to play 30-plus minutes if this game stays close, he's actually a pretty decent value play. And again, I hate playing Royce O'Neal, but I think this slate specifically does me like it does allow him to be a good value. He is someone that I think is going to make my lineups. So at $12 on Yahoo, I think Royce O'Neal looks pretty good there. And then the rest of the Jazz, I'm not really that high on. Rudy Gay at 3,900 as a punt option, I think is fine. He probably plays like 20, 22 minutes. He's been pretty productive this year with the Jazz. I question his ceiling is not massive just because he doesn't play a ton of minutes, but he can be really productive when he's on the court. I still don't love him as a value, but I think if you are looking for a cheap punt play like below 4K, I think Rudy Gay is playable. But that's probably it for Utah. Now moving on to the Sixers side. Again, pay attention to the injury report. It's a back-to-back for the Sixers. It wouldn't be surprising if they rest, one of these key players like Embiid or Tobias Harris, but I'm just going to assume that everyone plays. If everyone's in for Philly, Joel Embiid at 11K. On this slate, I think Joel Embiid's probably more of a secondary play for me. I think I'd rather pay up for Jokic in a much better spot against the Spurs. It's definitely a tough matchup for Embiid going up against Gobert. Like I said, last time these teams played, Embiid was not playing, so we haven't really seen these teams match up yet, or at least we haven't seen Embiid play against Utah yet this year. I want to say that like in the past, like Embiid hasn't had too much trouble against Gobert, but at 11K, like you're really paying for Embiid. It's a tough matchup. It's not the best spot. It's going to be a pretty slow-paced game. Like, I would just rather play Jokic in a much better spot. So, don't love Embiid. Obviously playable, though, since it is, just a 3-game slate. Tobias Harris at 7,600, like, he's fine. Tobias Harris is someone that I really never play, especially when Embiid's in the lineup. Like, the only time I ever play Tobias Harris is when Embiid's out. I don't expect that to be the case today. So, Tobias Harris, more of a secondary play. And really, in general, the Sixers are just probably... they're probably the least appealing team on the slate. Like, everyone's priced where they should be. No one stands out as a glaring, play that I think we really need to be going to. You could obviously throw Tobias Harris or Tyrese Maxey or Embiid in your player pool, but if I was playing one lineup today, like, I don't think I'd have any Sixers in my one lineup, assuming that everyone's good to go. Obviously, if guys start to get ruled out, then that would change things, but for now, the Sixers are not that appealing of a team. So we can move on to the next game, talk about the Lakers and the Grizzlies. So in terms of pace and expected points, I would say that this is for sure the most appealing game on the slate, just because the Lakers so far this year have been playing at a really fast pace, second fastest pace in the league. The Grizzlies are about middle of the pack in pace. I'm pretty sure this game does have the highest total on the slate. Looking at the Lakers though, like when the Lakers are fully healthy, when LeBron, AD, and Westbrook are all healthy, it's really tough to go to these guys where they're priced at. All these guys have upside. They're all going to play a ton of minutes if it's a close game, but they take usage away from each other. So far this year, LeBron's kind of been the most consistent of the big three. He's been the guy that has shown the highest floor. He's also shown a pretty high ceiling. It wouldn't be surprising to see, LeBron or AD or Westbrook have a good game here. I don't think any of them are like priority spend-ups for me. If I had to choose one of the three, though, I think LeBron is my favorite just because he's, shown the highest floor. Most nights are going to get like 40, 45 DK points from LeBron, and, some nights he'll put up like 55, 60. You'll randomly catch those ceiling games. Again, I would still rather just pay up for Jokic. I think I'd rather play Embiid as well if I'm going to pay up for someone above 10K. But the Lakers guys as contrarian options, I think are fine on this short slate. Normally I don't play them, but on a 3-gamer, they're going to be viable. The rest of the Lakers though, like you're just kind of throwing darts here. THT at 5,500, priced about right. Like he's going to play a decent amount of minutes. He got 35 minutes last game against the Celtics. His minutes have kind of been all over the place this year, but I think most nights we will get around 30 minutes from THT. He's 5,500 though, so it's not like you're getting much of a discount on him. Malik Monk's going to come off the bench, play like 20, 25 minutes. At 4,700, he feels priced about right. Same with Carmelo Anthony. Dwight Howard went back to the bench last game, so I would not play Dwight Howard now that he's coming off the bench. His minutes took a big hit last game. And that's really it for the Lakers, man. Like the Lakers, God, they're another team that I just don't really like that much. I think the big three are fine. I think LeBron's my favorite of the big three, and the rest of the Lakers just like, yeah, they're just dart throws in tournaments. Malik Monk, Carmelo, THT. You could play those guys, but I don't have a ton of confidence in many Lakers tonight, even in a pretty decent spot against Memphis. Now on the Memphis side, I think there is a decent amount to like on Memphis. The pricing on Memphis as well is pretty, it's pretty accurate. Like there's no standout plays from Memphis, but just given the really good matchup against the Lakers, I think on this slate specifically, we can definitely look to guys like Triple J, Desmond Bane, Dillon Brooks, Tyus Jones. Triple J at 7K, I have a lot of interest in. I do worry a bit about foul trouble here. He might be guarding AD at times. AD is someone that can pick up fouls on guys. We know Triple J has a tough time staying out of foul trouble. But when he does stay out of foul trouble, he normally plays like 33, 34 minutes. He had a really good game Wednesday against Dallas, played 34 minutes, had 41 DK points. He did have 5 fouls, but he still was able to play 34 minutes, was able to play through those. If we get like 33, 34 minutes from Triple J, I mean, he's got 40-point upside. I think it's 7K against the Lakers in a good spot, fast-paced Lakers team. I definitely have interest in Triple J. I think Desmond Bane at 6,900 is playable as well. Now, Desmond Bane, you're really paying for him. He's not a guy that I would normally pay $6,900 for, but given the lack of options, given how thin our player pool is for today, I think Bane is playable. He would be probably like my 4th or 5th favorite Grizzly, though, when you do factor in price tag. But then like Dillon Brooks and Tyus Jones, I think both these guys look pretty appealing. So Dillon Brooks is 6,200. We know Dillon Brooks most nights is going to play over 30 minutes. He's kind of similar to Triple J. Like, he does foul a lot as well. Dillon Brooks seems to always be in foul trouble too. He's a really, he's a really aggressive defender. He tries to go for steals, and it winds up getting him fouls a lot. But if he stays out of foul trouble, I think we do get like 33, 34 minutes from Dillon Brooks. It's a good matchup against the Lakers. It's a pretty fast-paced game. We know Dillon Brooks without Ja Morant is going to take a ton of shots. I mean, you look at his shot attempts, 18, 21, 12, 18. He's going to shoot the ball. He's not a great shooter. He's not a very efficient shooter, but the shot opportunities are going to be there. He's going to play a lot of minutes. He could be guarding Westbrook, and I think that would definitely be beneficial for Dillon Brooks, because if he's guarding Westbrook, there's always potential for turnovers, steals there, because we know Westbrook will turn the ball over a lot. So I definitely like Dillon Brooks at 6,200 on DK, and I think he looks pretty appealing on Yahoo as well at the small forward position. $23. He's for sure one of my favorite small forwards on Yahoo. And then Tyus Jones, 6K. Tyus Jones, without Ja Morant, we're going to see him play 30-plus minutes a night. I mean, you look at their competitive games lately. So in 4 of their last 5 games, those have been competitive, and we've gotten 34, 34, 32, and 35 minutes from Tyus Jones. He's not a super high upside player. Tyus Jones is rarely going to put up a score that you have to have. But on this slate, there's a lot of guys, like you could say that about a lot of guys where they're priced at, because the pricing for today is pretty tight. Most of the guys you're playing on this slate, there's not going to be a ton of guys that just stand out as glaring plays. I think everyone's priced probably where they should be, but a guy like Tyus Jones at 6K, he's priced where he should be, but I still think he's a pretty good option just because he's going to play a massive amount of minutes, 34, 35 minutes if this game's close. It's a good matchup against the Lakers. If he guards Russell Westbrook, there's potential for Tyus Jones to pick up a lot of steals. He's a guy that can get a lot of steals. We've seen that, at least 2 steals in 4 of his last 5 games. Those are a little bit more tasty on Yahoo, just because steals and blocks are worth 3 points over there. But I think regardless, $17 on Yahoo, 6K on Draftkings. Kind of like Tyus Jones on this slate as well. I think Tyus Jones is definitely going to be on my radar. And then the rest of the Grizzlies, like Steven Adams at 5,100, his minutes have actually been pretty secure lately. We've seen him play at least 30 minutes in back-to-back games. I think going up against Anthony Davis, they probably are going to want Steven Adams out there. I think his minutes are a little bit more secure without Ja Morant, just because, that's one less body in the rotation. They can just run different lineups, with Ja off the floor. If we're going to get like 25, 30 minutes from Steven Adams, I mean, at 5,100 on a short slate like this, like he's definitely on my radar. He is for sure in play. Melton, though, Kyle Anderson, Brandon Clark, we're going to have to wait and see if these guys play. So Kyle Anderson didn't play Wednesday, and I'm pretty sure Brandon Clark was out as well. Both these guys have been out lately. For this slate, I don't know if that affects too much. Like, you could definitely look to maybe a guy like Aldama. He only played 9 minutes on Wednesday against Dallas. We did see him get a lot of blowout run, though, against OKC. I don't think this game would blow out, so honestly, I don't think I'd really be going to Aldama. I really just don't like playing these Grizzlies bench guys, because they really do spread out the minutes with the bench guys. They usually run usually run a 10-man rotation. They'll play their 5 starters, and they usually always play 5 guys off the bench. So it's really hard for these bench guys to get a ton of run. D'Anthony Melton, he's going to come off the bench, probably play like 24, 25 minutes. I guess if I had to play anyone that wasn't a starter, it would probably be Melton. But I think I'm just going to really focus on these starters from Memphis. I don't love too many of the bench guys. Even on a 3-game slate, I doubt I go there. So yeah, I think we can go ahead and move on to the last game of the night, talk about the Nuggets and the Spurs. The Nuggets, another team on a back-to-back. So Utah, Philly, Memphis, and Denver, those are our 4 teams that are on back-to-backs today. Again, keep an eye on the injury report. Jokic played a ton of minutes. It was an overtime game Wednesday against the Pelicans. He played 37 minutes. I assume that Jokic will play today, but there's always possibility on a back-to-back here that he gets rested. He's been on the injury report lately. He's been playing through a forearm injury, I do believe. I'm expecting Jokic to play, and if he does play, on this slate with the lack of pay-up options that we have, the Lakers guys I don't love. Embiid's in a tough spot against Rudy Gobert. I don't really want to pay up for Donovan Mitchell, so I think Jokic is just the clear best pay-up option on this slate. He's expensive, but I really want to try and find a way to fit him in, and I think on Yahoo, if I can find a way to play Jokic there, $54, he's by far the best pay-up option on the slate. I don't think anyone comes close. Embiid, I guess, has upside, but no one really comes close to Embiid in terms of, floor and upside, or not Embiid, but a Jokic. He's just shown so much upside this year, shown such a high floor. Most nights, Jokic, even on his bad nights, is going to give you 50 DraftKings points. And we saw against the Pelicans on Wednesday, he's got 70-plus point upside, had a massive triple-double, 39 points, 11 rebounds, 11 assists, 72 DraftKings points for Jokic. Against the Spurs, I think this is a pretty favorable spot. The Spurs have actually been playing pretty fast this year. They're 6th in pace on the season. Jokic put up a 70-burger against them earlier this year. So, yeah, Jokic, great play on a 3-game slate. He's definitely one of the top pay-up options for sure. The rest of the Nuggets, I don't really like many of these guys. I think on a 3-game slate, these guys are viable. Will Barton, he was actually on the injury report. He was questionable, but he wound up playing. Again, keep an eye on that. He could maybe get rested here, given he was injured, or he was on the injury report with an illness Wednesday, wound up playing, played 42 minutes. I assume he'll be good to go, but you never know when teams are on back-to-backs. If Barton plays, I think he's a secondary option. Same with Aaron Gordon. Monte Morris, I don't really like at 5,400. I think Jeff Green as a value, I guess, at 4,800 is definitely viable. He has been starting lately and playing relatively good minutes. You look at his last 5 games, he's played at least 30 minutes in 3 of his last 5. I think most nights if the game's close, we're going to get around 30 minutes from Jeff Green, and due to the lack of value on the slate, getting 30 minutes from a $4,800 Jeff Green, I think is playable on this type of slate. So I do have some interest in him as a paydown option. The rest of the Nuggets, though, like the bench guys, I'm not really on. The bench guys haven't been getting a ton of run. Campazzo played 22 minutes. Most nights he's going to play around 20 minutes. He could definitely be viable on this slate at 3,800. If he does play 20 minutes, he could give you a good enough score to potentially make the winning lineup. So honestly, I don't mind Campazzo. Bones Highland did return on Wednesday, but he only played 16 minutes. Don't really know how much Bones is going to play here on the back-to-back, given he just returned and he only played 16 minutes Wednesday. Have to assume that he plays similar minutes here. I don't really like many of these bench guys. I think Campazzo, if I was to take a shot on anyone coming off the bench from Denver, he would probably be the guy that I would play. But I think that's it for the Nuggets. Now we can move on to San Antonio. Talk about the Spurs here. So Dejounte Murray, 9,700. I think Dejounte Murray, probably my second favorite pay-up option on the slate behind Jokic. Dejounte Murray just been so good this year. Finally had a bad game last game against the Knicks. 35 minutes, only 37 DK points. But if you take away that game, he's just been so good. 50 DK points in most of his games lately. Shown some upside with 59 DK points. He's got a triple-double in a lot of these games. He's shown triple-double upside basically every game. He's a guy that will stuff the stat sheet. He'll do a little bit of everything. Against Denver, 9,700. I think the spot against Denver is not the best for Dejounte Murray, but still on this slate with the lack of pay-up options that we have, he is definitely on my radar, and it does stand out as a pretty strong pay-up option. I still think Jokic is the guy that I want to be building around, but by some chance, if we do get some value open up as the day goes on, I think playing Jokic and Murray together is something I would for sure want to do if it works. Now, right now, it's really tough to do that because of the lack of value, but we could obviously get more value open up, if some of these guys, or some of these teams are on back-to-backs if they wind up resting some players. But that's news we'll just have to wait and see on. But then you got Jakob Poeltl at 6,400. I'm definitely scared about Jakob Poeltl here going up against Jokic. I think there's a lot of potential for foul trouble for Poeltl. It's not the best matchup in general. I think they're going to want him out there, though, just because they don't really have anyone else that I would think that they want guarding Jokic. I don't think they want Drew Eubanks or Thad Young out there. So I do expect Jakob Poeltl to play at least 30 minutes if he stays out of foul trouble. I think at 6,400, he feels priced about right on this slate, for the matchup against Denver, but definitely playable, in my opinion. Derek White at 6,300 I actually like as a shooting guard option. He's been playing really, really well lately. We've seen a lot of upside from Derek White. 37 DK points in 3 of his last 5 games. Been playing relatively big minutes as well. He was a guy that I really haven't been on much this season. Like most slates, Derek White is not a standout play just because he's always priced where he should be, and he never really projects that well for his salary. But given how this slate is shaping out with the lack of standout plays, I think 6,300 for Derek White is totally viable on this slate. If we get 34, 35, 36 minutes from Derek White, pretty likely that he'll give us a good enough score to pay off the $6,300 salary. So I do like him on DK, and he's definitely one of my favorite shooting guard plays on Yahoo at $23. At first look, I think he looks pretty appealing on this slate. Keldon Johnson, not expected to play. He is doubtful. So we could maybe get some value from San Antonio. Now, targeting these guys for value is never appealing, like Lonnie Walker, Keita Bates-Diop. Like, none of these guys you're ever going to feel great about rostering. But I do expect some minutes to be available for those guys. We have seen Pop really spread out the minutes when it comes to these bench guys. Like, even when we think Lonnie Walker is going to play more, he usually never does. Like, last 2 games, just 20 and 16 minutes, and that's with Devin Vassell being out. With Keldon Johnson out, too, you would have to think Lonnie Walker plays more, but I'm not confident in that. I'd assume Keita Bates-Diop is going to be the guy that starts in place of Keldon Johnson. He's only 3,300. He's probably your best punt play that's available right now. Now, Keita Bates-Diop is not a guy that I'd be too excited to roster, but if you really want to punt, if you're trying to fit in multiple studs, I think he's in play just because he is going to start for most likely, and he is going to play probably at least 22, 24 minutes. He's 3,300. Don't love it, but at least playable. And again, Lonnie Walker, maybe Thad Young gets more minutes. Thad Young's actually a guy that I would be excited to roster because he is a pretty productive player when he's on the court, but his minutes have just been all over the place this year. I think last game he didn't even get in the rotation. He didn't even play last game. So even with Keldon Johnson out, who knows if Thaddeus Young gets more minutes. We're going to have to wait and see on a starting lineup. If Thad Young surprisingly winds up starting, I would really, really like him for value, but I would be very surprised if that happens. I'd assume that Keita Bates-Diop is going to be the guy that starts, and we talked about him as a pay-down option. But yeah, I think there is some potential value from San Antonio, but man, these guys are not guys I'm very confident in, just to be honest with you. I think Doug McDermott at 4,200 is on my radar for value. He's not a very sexy play. He's not going to get a ton of minutes. He's probably going to play 22 to 25 minutes, but he's 4,200. Again, we don't have a ton of pay-down options. I think Doug McDermott is playable. But San Antonio in general, I'm going to try and want to focus on the main guys. So Dejounte Murray, Jakob Poeltl, Derek White. Outside of those 3 guys, the rest of these San Antonio Spurs, I'm scared to roster these guys, I'll be honest with you. I think, it wouldn't be surprising to see one of these guys do well, whether it be Lonnie Walker or Keita Bates-Diop or Thad Young if he gets minutes, but good luck, guessing who it's going to be or if it even happens. We'll have to wait and see. If some other value opens up, then I would have no interest in targeting these Spurs guys. But if we don't really get any value during the day, then you might have to look to some of these guys, especially if you do want to try and pay up for multiple studs on this slate, which is pretty hard to do right now. But that's it, guys. It's a pretty ugly 3-game slate. I'll be honest, it's not my favorite. But we still got a lot of money up top. 100K to first tournament on DK. I'll still be playing this slate, but I'll definitely be playing lighter volume. I probably won't be playing my normal volume today. But I did want to break down the slate for you guys, give you my thoughts. I hope you did enjoy this video, though. Be sure you hit the like button down below. As always, I appreciate the likes. Hit the subscribe button as well before you do get out of here. And again, check out the sponsor of the video, PrizePicks. Go sign up for PrizePicks. Use code NOAH when you do sign up, and they will match your first deposit up to $100, give you a free bet up to $100. You can take a look at what PrizePicks has to offer. Take a look at their board for the NBA games. Once they get posted, you can take a look at what they have for NFL. If you want to make some picks for Thursday Night Football, they have projections up for that as well. You can win up to 10 extra money on PrizePicks. So sign up, use code NOAH, and take a look at what PrizePicks has to offer when you do sign up. But best of luck tonight, guys. Appreciate you watching the video. Hope you did enjoy, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.